Hey, this is Noah Sties, and you're watching my chat with Fangirls Only.
So, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Fangirls Only. I'm your host, Vanessa Fermo, and today I'm here with Noah Sties. So, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. All right.
Let's
So,
go.
your brand new EP came out just about a week ago, which is amazing. And I was listening to it when I was like making the questions and stuff. And
hmm
oh my God, I'm obsessed.
Let's
Literally,
go.
like, was on repeat for like hours. So,
I'm
can
glad you
you
like it.
think? So, could you walk us through what had you inspired to make this EP?
Yeah, I've always been in this I guess, pursuit of making music that sounds like what I listen to. Um, Growing up in a little Amish town in Indiana, nobody really around me was making music that was like commercially viable at all or like highly produced. So yeah, I was just on this pursuit to like make music that is something that would like come on my Discover Weekly or something like that. And that was, it took a couple years to get there. I started like releasing music with my voice in 2020. So now in 2025, the CP was the first time that I worked with like an actual producer and like did stuff in a studio and like wasn't all on my laptop. And so yeah, it was really just me like continuing to push myself farther and see like how good of songs I can create. And it really was more of an exercise than anything. There's not any concept that's too deep to it. So
So, along with that question, do you think you approached to make this EP differently than your debut album?
yeah, for sure. My debut album, which I struggle to even call my debut album because I made it in my car, and I feel like my debut album should like be served more justice than that. But that's besides the point. Um, yeah, so this EP, I took a slice of a bunch of like indie songs and like punk songs that I liked from like 2007 to like 2012. And I made a playlist for myself that I really hit hard. And I guess that was kind of the main inspiration for the actual sonic qualities of these songs. I was super inspired by this band called Funeral Party out of Whittier, California. No longer exists. Very obscure at this point, I'm sure. But if somebody on here knows them, please tell me because I would love to yap about them for hours. Um, but no, they have a record called The Golden Age of Nowhere that came out in I think 2009 or 2010, and there's a song on there called Giant, and that record was kind of like the main fundamental inspiration for all of these songs sonically. So I named the EP after that song. Um, yeah, and opposed to my first album where I was kind of just going and sitting in parking lots and writing in my notes app is like a therapeutic exercise. This was much more of a sonic exercise. I'd say these are a lot more focused sonically, and the album was a lot more lyrical. Yeah,
So, having moved on yet seems to deal with complicated relationships and like some messy emotions. So, what was
yeah,
going through your
not messy at all. Not messy at all.
so what was going through your when you're I'm sorry, what was going through your head when you wrote that? And like was it inspired by like a personal experience or more like a mood that you wanted to capture?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, of course, inspired by a personal experience, but I wrote it at a time where I actually had moved on. Um, I writing that song was kind of me looking at a lens of like how was I feeling in this moment and how can I amplify everything like 10 times. Just because like while I don't know if my feelings were as dramatic as I described them in the song, that's what they felt like in my head, even if that wasn't my true feeling. Yeah, so that was kind of the idea behind that. It was that song's more of a reflection than it actually is my feelings in a current moment, but I really wanted to challenge myself to make it feel like I wrote it in the current moment.
So when you look back on Giant in 5 years, what do you hope it represents for you as an artist and for the people who connected with it?
I hope they can see the vision. I hope they can see the plot developing. Yeah, I mean, I think I really did achieve that goal I was talking about of like making something that would come on my Discover Weekly. Like that was my goal. I had this kind of litmus test for myself. I grew up not too far from Chicago, So I would like go to Chicago on the weekends, like in late high school, like early college, and just kind of like walk around and listen to music. And like I'd listen to these songs from these bands and be like this is a song for people in the big city. Like I could see this like at the theater across the street over here. And I always wanted to make a song of mine that felt like gave me that feeling. Um, and yeah, like I said, I think that these four songs I'm really proud of, and I achieved that sonically and lyrically and melodically, and the production value on them. And then, um, yeah, I think moving forward, I'm planning on making songs that are a little bit more focused emotionally and trying to capture a specific artistic kind of aesthetic to them. Um, yeah, and looking at things through a little bit more of a aesthetic and introspective lens rather than how good of a song could I make kind of thing.
Okay, so this is the last question about Giant. So, if Giant were a short film, what would the opening and closing look like?
Uh, yeah, they'd both be on the road on like the Pacific Coast Highway and like a really cool car going like 700 miles an hour.
Like
Like freaking like what's the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower, like the scene where they're in the tunnel and they're like hands out of the window, like that's the opening and the closing scene, like for sure. That's the vibe I really wanted to capture with these songs. So
it's just the whole like short film is just like in the car, pretty much.
yeah, yeah, like a crazy road trip and like all sorts of mishaps happen on the way, but like we
That's
still end up at the destination. Maybe the car's in like three pieces, but like smoking a little bit. But
that like
we made it.
kind of reminds me of the movie that like just came out pretty recently called Big Bold Beautiful Journey or something like that. Like
I
it's got
don't
like
think I've
a
heard of that one.
it's like it's called yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how to describe it, but like it pretty much like takes place in a car and they like go on like a road trip thing. It's confusing, but yeah.
Do you have Letterboxd? Are you a Letterboxd user?
Yeah, but I haven't used it in like a few months.
I was gonna say I need to look up the reviews of that one. Letterbox is my it's how I gauge whether I need to go see a movie or not.
No. All right. So growing up in a small Amish town in Indiana is quite unique for an indie rock whoa, musician. So what was your childhood like and how did that upbringing shape your early interest in music?
It was real quiet. Um, I was an only child. I didn't really have very many friends. I grew up in church a lot. That was kind of the vibe. A lot of my friends growing up are kind of the people that my parents just kind of dropped me off at their house. Like these are your friends. um, so yeah, I'd say I had a very unique childhood. I was always very tight knit with my parents, being an only child from such a small town, especially growing up in like a religious family. Um, but both my parents are artists. Not a lot of people know that. My mom's a graphic designer. My dad's a graphic designer, website designer, and photographer. They both were musicians at one point. My dad was on the road for a little bit. Um, and so I grew up around like a lot of like music around the house, especially like Christian rock, I think like Switchfoot, that kind of thing. I remember being like probably 9 or 10 years old and like discovering like Owl City for the first time. That was kind of my introduction to like electronic music, which I know is kind of a meme at this point, but back in the day that like blew my mind. Like, what's a synth? Like, that's crazy. Um, and so like I had all of his albums downloaded on my little iPod. It wasn't actually an iPod, it was like a little MP3 player. Um, but yeah, I was obsessed with music as a kid. I mean, I remember like just a lot of late night car rides, like just listening to albums front to back, like staring at the window with my little MP3 player, and that was like my thing, which probably sounds really cliche now, and I'm sure everybody did that, but I didn't really have friends that were that into music, and I was obsessed with like the concept of a full album and like a just like different sonics and that kind of thing. So yeah, it wasn't until I was in middle school. I'd always been creative. Like I'd always like build things like little contraptions, and I coded for a long time. I thought I wanted to be a video game designer. I took classes for that for a long time. And then yeah, in middle school I lied to this kid at my church that I knew how to make beats. And I was like, well, I can't lie. So I have to go home and teach myself how to make beats. And I think secretly my parents like, I'd get hand me down gear from my dad and like they'd buy me like keyboards and stuff. So um yeah, I think transitioning to music was kind of a natural evolution from my other creative endeavors. But yeah, I mean I still do like I still a photographer, I still do graphic design, that kind of stuff was all bubbling at the same time. So
I'm also only child as well.
oh sick. So you get it.
Yeah. So lots of artists have different places where they write songs. I guess for you, yours would be like your car or something.
Yeah, I write a lot of songs in my shower. I think all the songs on Giant were written in my shower.
How do you write songs in the shower? You just like bring a notebook or your phone and you're like, what?
No, I like I don't know. I think a shower can be very like poetic. I just it's like the one place I'm in every day and at my most peace. Like I've never had anything bad happen in the shower for me. So I'm always at peace there and yeah, it lets me like turn my brain off in a way that very few other spaces do. And when I turn my brain off, that's usually when I'm the most creative because when I try to write a song, I'm usually not very good at it. So, um, yeah, kind of like subconsciously coming up with like lyrical or melodic ideas. I also think a lot in the shower. I think that's probably a very normal thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm not doing anything else. So I'll just kind of sit in there for like a half hour and like be like, have you moved on yet? Like kind of that kind of thing. And then I immediately like soaking wet will like run, get my phone in the other room and like type everything down in my notes app and like record a voice.
Oh my
It's a process. Yeah.
God. So do you think different environments like influences like different types of songs?
Oh, 100%. And that's like, I mean, that was kind of the whole thing. Like growing up in such a small town, I was always like telling myself, and still now, it's like, man, if I grew up in Chicago, I'd be like making way cooler music with like louder guitars and have like a cool friend group and all this stuff. And I think there is some truth to that. I think your music is really inspired by your surroundings, and I just happen to make very like um, I would say coming of age kind of songs just because that's what I felt like it was the environment I grew up in. I mean, I've always been very focused on like bettering myself and like my development and I don't want to say like main character energy because like I don't that's not a good thing, but like um I've always seen myself through a lens of like self-improvement and like being in a room kind of like analyzing everything, that kind of vibe. So yeah, I don't know if that would be the same if I was not an only child from an Amish town. So
All right. So if there are any other small town aspiring artists watching this video, do you have any advice for them for their future music?
yeah, just keep making stuff that sucks until it doesn't suck. That's literally all it takes. Also, like um post on TikTok because
Oh.
even though like TikTok can be really discouraging and like I can post 5 things and like get no views. Um I it literally like the people that kind of kickstarted this whole music thing for me, I met through like one random TikTok I almost didn't post, you know? Like it only takes like my manager I met through one random TikTok that I almost didn't post and now I'm moving across the country to be closer with her and all of her friends. So um you never know who's going to see your stuff. Michael Clifford liked a joke TikTok I posted the other day. I was like, get off my page, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
it was not me performing, it was me doing a bit. And I was like, can you go like the ones of my music, please?
Yeah,
Like,
like want to like discover me?
exactly.
All right, so now moving on to the fan question. So Allison C's asked, what are your goals for the next 12 months? I guess for
Hi, mom.
yourself. Just-
Um, yeah, that's my mom. Well, my goal for the next 12 months is to successfully live in Nashville and not have to rely on you. So
All right. So last question from Molly, and she asked, why is your fandom called Ooms?
That's a good one. My fandom is called Oomps because for those of you who do not know, Oomp stands for one of my followers, or it could be one of my friends, or it could be one of my fans. Any of the above. That's a very Twitter term. And I like grew up like in the super fan culture of music in like the late 2010s and like going to concerts and like renting to the barricade and like I was always oomphs with all these people. That's what we called each other. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with that. And I just kind of wanted to like break the fourth wall and kind of like share that energy with the people that listen to my music. And it's like, yeah, I'm your oomph too. Or like, yeah, you might be coming to my show, but like this is a friend meetup, like you know what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of a community thing, and I thought it was like I couldn't think of a name that would work better than that, and I also didn't see anybody else calling their fans oomphs. So here we are.
Sure. Those are the questions. So thank you so much for coming on. It's great having you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye.